Hi, this is Samar. I work in Quicker and I basically work around building products for different verticals what we have. And then I also explicitly work around the performance part of across Quicker. So we have multiple domains and we work around that to make it fast as much we can. So as you guys know, the current title of the topic, what we will be discussing is around analyzing and improving web performance using DevTools and WebPageTest. So let's see the agenda then. Yeah, so we'll start off with checking out HTTP archive and how the current specific state of web is and what are the current basic bottlenecks as an overview. And then we'll also touch point a couple of specific graphs around what we get from Web Almanac. And then we derive a performance budget. With that budget, we'll start off how do we profile or what is there in the Chrome DevTools and WebPageTest, and how do we leverage Bing with budget and make our site performant. So let's start then. Yeah, so on the HTTP archive part, so if we talk about the web, it includes images, JavaScript, CSS, and HTMLs. And as per the current report of Web Almanac 2020, the current sizes are, so this is the desktop one and the mobile part. So the image one is having 916 and 1001. And for JavaScript, it is around 444. And similarly for CSS, 68 and 26 for the desktop part. And if we talk about what is it good, or these are the median parts what we are talking about. And then if we say as per the current performance, is it good enough, or should we should aim less or more? That's what we will derive from our performance budget going forward. So let's see how others placed as per the percentiles. So let's say regarding style sheet, 98th percentile stands around 240 to 234 kbs, which is way higher. And when we talk about the 10th percentile part, it is 8 and 5. So it is like we have variant types of websites, which varies a lot, right? So that's where we need to explicitly aim, as in what should be the current budget? How can we define things which are not blocking, and accordingly cater the site the best performant way, right? Similarly for JavaScript, which is one of the important part, as in one of the heaviest part, or explicitly is something which basically impacts our sites and stuff, which stands really high as per the current median reports of Web Almanac. And coming to the document size, here is a markup and a markup what we use on the websites. That stands around 11507 for the mobile part, which is way heavier, seems like. So that's something we have to do a lot to decrease that, to be within the budget or within the way we can render the sites faster. And third party content type, which is basically contributes to a lot, especially which is not currently the first party, rather the third party ones. A third party involves various types of assets, including JavaScript, image, other HTML, CSS, fonts, and text. And these are mostly ads or some other specific promotional content stuff, what we show in the web page. So, and that's something which we need to keep a watch on to ensure that we cater our site as performant as possible. Now, in order to derive the performance budget, let's say currently there's a site called Performance Budget, what we can go through. Here we can call out what is something which we are aiming at. Let's say, to be very relaxed on that part, as in, let's say 5 seconds, and then being on the 3G fast or 3G slow. Mostly 3G fast covers the 4G part and stuff, because when we talk about the actual bandwidth what we get, it's obviously around lesser than what we get, right? Let's say if we are on 4G, that's mostly works around 3G fast and stuff. Clicking on that, you get to see what is your performance, what is your budget in order to be within that time frame. And if you go next, then you see that part, what I was showing. So in order to be within 5.33 seconds, loading the complete site with 1.5 Mbps, obviously being very lenient, saying, okay, let's say we have that much. Still, the budget seems to be way lesser than what we saw on our web almanac, right? So let's see what should we do to basically initially quantify and then explicitly optimize locally or on our synthetic environments to optimize all of that, right? So let's coming back to the slides again. What do we have explicitly as tools, or how do we analyze in the given scenarios? So as I think Tim covered last time around RAM responsive in last session, that was pretty interesting talk, and that it covered most of these real user measurement part. And what we'll be focusing today is around the synthetic monitoring part of it, synthetic profiling, and then analyzing, and then improving that part. So around DevTools contains Lighthouse, and DevTools, basically we use DevTools locally. And when we are providing a synthetic environment, that is where WebPageTest works. And yeah, I think that's how the current, once we profile it, initially we start testing, which is like in WebPageTest, you start a test and then see what are the specific matrices which you get, and accordingly plan or analyze to explicitly define those action items which can make it more performant. Okay, so let's quickly go through the Chrome DevTools then to understand what do we have on Chrome DevTools. Any questions till now? I think we're good.
I think we're good. Yep, and I can see your Chrome browser with the developer DevTools open. You're good.
Perfect. So I just opened up a site called JustFake, which is what we use in India. And to start it, let's say you can do Command Option I. That basically shortcut to open up your DevTools. And then what we see here is the elements part. Similarly, you have network, sources, console, lighthouse, and performance, application security. So regarding explicitly elements part, let's say we do something quick here. Let's say if I'm focusing on something as, let's say the div part, I go inside the div, further down, or here, or here. So this doesn't seems to be within our viewport, right? So I can do a right click and do scroll into view. It basically scrolls it in. That helps you, as in, let's say if you focus on something within the elements panel and then you want to bring it up within your viewport. So that's an easy way to do that out. Looking for the next part, let's say I open, if you press escape, the console panel wakes up. And if you right click on any of these items, let's say this one, and there's a copy command, which you can copy the selector. So for the console part, there's a neat little pro tip, as in use $0 to basically target the one which you selected here. So if whatever I click on within the element, that becomes $0, and the previous one becomes $1, and so on and so forth. So I was talking about the selector part. So let's say if I do a right click and copy the selector, this I can use document. If you paste, this is the complete selector, which we can target by any means here. Let's say document.query selector. Is the fonts feasible or do I need to bump up? Please let me know. Let me bump up a bit.
I think I see it okay, but maybe bumping off a little. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep, this should be good.
Document.query selector, and then we can paste our selector. That becomes this one, the one which we selected. So that helps in defining or especially selecting a quick element and then trying out a couple of things within the console. That's quite helpful. And then explicitly when we are working around things, maybe there are scenarios where we want to take snapshot of a quick any block, right? So we can click on here and do a right click, and where is that?
I'm looking for capture node screenshot. I think it's like fourth from the bottom.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I got luck.
By the way, folks,
Okay.
just to be clear, like all of these tricks Samar showed us at the Meet for Speed, we were like, Jesus, we didn't do it for years, and it was so useful when we do like scripting and things like that. It's just, yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, so there might be the scenarios where you have to share screen or explicitly share a particular node with guys saying that there's a bug in a particular part, and then you're supposed to share it. You can click it and right click and take a snapshot and share that part. So that way it is easier to share that with others. Okay, and coming to the network panel then, any questions with the source panels, please feel free to bring up. We're moving to network panel then. So network panel is one of the interesting part where I feel things which is possible within that is amazing actually. So to start off with something like, let's say I want to check what are the specific files which has larger than 1 KB or anything of that sort, right? So let's say I can do it larger than, and then define what I want to check. Let's say 1K. Mostly all of them are higher than 1K. Let's put it 10K. Or if I want to check what is less than 10K, I can put it at like minus the initial one. That will give me images size which are lesser than 10K. So it's quite helps on the part where we wanted to check, say, what is our largest image, or what are those specific images which is but it is not clear. We'll remember to ask it.
Yeah, there is just a question about
Okay.
generally performance. So I think you will get there very soon, but
Okay. Is there any specific questions which we need to answer? I'm okay.
yeah,
If I
kind of a
pause again.
quickest way. I think the question is what's the quickest way to know the rendering time in the browser in Chrome DevTools?
Okay. I think I'll get there because if I tell it before, then it's basically on a separate panel. And anyway, just to share it, it is like you can use a Lighthouse to get a brief on that. Those are the specific part. The other way, which I basically do, is go to your source panel. I have a couple of snippets here. Go here. Let's say the LCP or script loading or cumulative layout. So these are the web vitals. Three of these are the web vitals. It's a tool called Performance Analyzer. Performance bookmark it. Okay. Um, is it something which you're wondering around that how can you see when is it rendering? That mostly is in performance panel. Um, I'll be coming there and we'll be profiling things. There we can see every details about when explicit part is rendered. And there is another quick little ways around the network panel as well. So you can enable the screenshotting, which will basically shows you, let's say capture screenshot, and then go to elements. You have to nuke head and body just to ensure it starts clean. Go to network and do a command R. So this also shows you those specific part. Was that the question or is it something else? Okay, I think that's.
I think
If
that
there is something,
answers quite a bit of that, but we might go into more details when you go on the performance tab. I can feel it.
correct. Yes. So that's the reason I just try to briefly cover that. We can go in more details going forward. Okay. And another part on this part is, let's say there's, I can see there's something called velvet cake right here. And I was wondering whether can I answer that, is it it is there on the initial DOM, or is it a JAX request or a fetch request, which is going in to bringing these images or these data? A neat little trick on that part is do a command F and then look for red velvet cake. Press enter. This gives you, so let's say it gives you, you can search for headers, what has been responded. You can also search for response body as well. So let's say this currently shows that it is within the DOM. Let's say if I click it here, you can see it's within the DOM. So this data is available way before. There's no AJAX call, which is basically bringing that. So that way it is. So let's say if we talk about how many specific assets is having cache control as set, we can look for max edge, which which is usually gets set for all the cache controls part, right? If you click that, that gives you all these assets or specific resources which has max age as a response. So it is basically searching all of them. So this can give you, so if you could see the difference, let's say when I typed red velvet, on clicking of this, it opened up the response panel. But when I typed max age, clicking on of this, it opened up the headers panel. So that's basically because it searches in both. Wherever it finds it, it opens that corresponding part. So obviously when we are typing for response headers, then it will needs to open the header part. And if it finds a particular key string on the response, that opens the response bar. So in that case, this little trick can help us identify or figure out a particular key or a data, things what we are trying to verify. Where is it coming from? Is it already there, or uh, is it coming in corresponding AJAX request? So if we open up, let's say, currently, let's see if it has any AJAX part. Doesn't seem like. Let me open another. I'll just quickly pick another. We can pick CNN. One second, let me set this out. Yep. Command Option I. Let's say disable mobile, Command M, sorry. do a refresh. So let's say this one. We'll see what it has. Let's say GameStop. We do the same, Command F, GameStop. On clicking of this, we go to GameStop directly, right? And if we talk about the headers here, and this is one of the XHR call, and we are getting it directly to there. So yeah, it helps on that part. Hope that's clear. Please feel free to ask questions if it is not. Okay. Next, coming to the other parts which is supported on this filter part is, let's say, you can look for cookie names as well. What are the domains which is setting cookie, or you can look for cookie name as well. Let's say there are a couple of scenarios when there's an application which is setting a particular cookie, and you want to know who is if that is a public cookie, who's messing around that specific cookie. You can look for that, and it will basically point you to that particular specific request who is dealing with this particular cookie. So let's say if I typed it cookie name as this is being used by this domain. So that these are a lot many things when you're trying to figure out what is a particular cookie, who's being using that particular cookie. Similarly, cookie value name, both specifically can be checked as well. So if we go to application and pick a value there, say cookie and value, we can pick a value and then go back to servers and then look for value. Okay. And another specific part on this, let's say we have a site, say quicker, and how do we check whether it is running something in behind? It's still running. Let's say we have WebSocket, and WebSocket is always open and it's running, right? So in that case, how do we check whether a particular website has it or not? So there's something called running, which can check that. With that, it will basically identify those WebSocket which is open and it's running. Sorry. Excuse me. Somehow I cannot close it. Okay, now I should. Okay. There are a couple of other things which I want to highlight here is I'm checking for the next point which I had on that. Okay. There are a couple of things here. Let's say we want to, there is something called initiator. To open up initiator, you have to right click on this and then go to response header. Sorry, where is the initiator? This one. Usually it does not open, but that kind of helps to identify given request, who was the initiator of that particular request. And the other way around, or a quick pro tip on that part, is if you click on the shift key and then hover, that will give you the red means that's something which is originated from the one which you have hovered. And the other way around, when you see the green one, that's kind of the parent of the part what you have hovered. So that helps sometimes in that if you see the initiator, that's without seeing the initiator, that's a neat, simple way to identify that. A parent and child part gets highlighted accordingly. Okay. Okay. And coming to specifically on the next part is the one which we searched here. Let's say Command F, we see this search. There's another search at the bottom. So if you click on the escape key, you see this, and then basically I've opened it, I'm closing it just that people know how to open that part. Go on this and then look for the search part here. So here, the top one can search for response header and the responses. Here, this can only look for sources, as in, let's say the same thing, if we type GameStop, it will not provide because it doesn't look for the responses one, right? It only, no, it was on a different side field. Yeah, that's fine. If you search here, it only search for the sources part. So let's say if you open up, just for now, I'm just opening up one file. Let's say go to network. Let me close this one screenshot part just to get some more real estate there. Capture screenshot, go off. Okay. Mostly, let's say, are we using onload? Yeah. So this looks for file. Let's say if you are wondering about a particular keyword or a particular functionality, which you want to check, where is it implemented or where it resides within your complete source code, you can come up here, search for that, you get that. So that saves a lot of time. Sometimes you're wondering about a particular keyword or a specific method, which is where it's being used. You come up here and just type that, you get to know where all in your source code you're using it. Okay, another part, at times we explicitly, let's say GPT, mostly it's a DFP art particular script. I want to check that if I disable DFP ads for this page and how does it look? Or if I disable that, how many requests shall I save on disabling that? So there's a way to block request, which you can define. You can right click and block request, or you can completely block all the requests from this particular domain. Let's say if I block it, it shows up here, and then this is not related to that. I think I added a couple of this before, so that's how it's showing up. And now if I refresh, it will disable that particular GPT. So if we see, let's compare and let's disable and refresh. So it's around 108 request. We look for GPT, we re-enable and block it and refresh. Seems like there is another GPT which is coming up.
Yeah, looks like something weird is going on. It's like it's actually did not reduce the amount of requests.
Correct.
So, which is unusual.
I don't know.
I mean, they seem to
Yeah,
be creative.
let's block the domain in that case. Ideally, it should. Yeah. Sometimes you have to check and then explicitly disable that. So in that case, you can see the number of requests which gets reduced is a lot on that part. So that basically quickly helps in disabling a couple of specific scripts and then see how those are benefiting if I disable. So those kind of scenario can be easily tested. And once you test and verify that that works perfectly or it improves, then look around, why is it blocking, or how can I explicitly defer so that it doesn't come under my critical path, right? So yeah, so that covers up this specific search and the network panel. And there's another specific way where usually we share among colleagues, say something happened to me, or let's say I could see a bug and I wanted to share with other colleagues saying, highlighting this is the problem, or this is the complete network panel problem I want to highlight. So in that case, I can just go for a right click and save as a har file. So har file completely dump the complete request with headers, and you can also include responses within that. So once you take the dump of it, now you can share it with someone. They can use basic har viewer, any har viewer, and then they can exactly see what was a specific thing which you are trying to highlight, which is happening explicitly to you, not others. So this basically helps at times on that part. So yeah. Okay, and then other quick ways to explicitly identify what are your expensive or most heavy assets and stuff. In that case, you can just click on the size part to sort it accordingly, and you see the top one, the most heavier or the bulkier at the top. You can sort it accordingly on that part. Okay, so next, coming to sources panel then. Is there any questions which we wanted to take till now?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah,
I think we're
yeah,
good.
yeah. Yeah, I think Ozikutter just shared that har viewer on that. Okay. Coming to the sources part. Okay, so here we can explicitly look for multiple things. First and foremost, that's the source files, what we can look for. As you can see the command for that, do a command P and see what all specific scripts which you have on the current page. So if we go back to our site, just pick, and then go to the sources panel. Okay, to start off on the page part. So these are the specific assets what we have downloaded for this page. And it is as per the current folder or directory structure which has been downloaded, grouped with the domain and subdomain, which has been used. And coming back here again, we can do Command P and look for image or JS files, what has been loaded on this page. So the interesting part here is like we have specific breakpoints which we can define. So this is the complete execution part, what we can block, and then all those scopes bring up here. If I do a command P and look for a particular script here, let's say there's one script. Let me look for this JS file here. It's all jQuery. Bootstrap mean, let's say, I go to source panel, or switching between these panels, you can use shortcut called command square bracket, so which you can navigate among all the panels. And here, bootstrap, CSS, or bootstrap min, you can go by here and then look for this pretty print, which can give you the complete source code on that part. Okay. Yeah. And the next part, which is pretty amazing, saying that without going to your development environment, you can do pretty much on this particular panel. So let's say you go by the overrides one. It basically asks you define a directory where you can explicitly save files locally and then serve it from there. So in that case, let's say click on that. Let's say if I go to Samar, this is the one which is blank. I keep it here. It asks me for the access. sorry. It asks me for the access. I have to press allow because that's the security part, as in you're providing that directory to be read. You press allow and then you see the directory. Now, for example, if let's do some change on this part. What would be the change? Let's go to the page part. See, this is the home page part. Okay. Let's add a title on the top, maybe. Let's look for the body, navigation. Let's change the current one, what we have. Let's say this is birthday cakes. H1 sources. Go here. You can do a right click and save for overrides. That basically brings in locally. Go to overrides. You can see the file here. Now this is editable. We can edit and save. So let's say we look for birthday cakes. Here we say birthday cakes meetup. I save it. Is the correct place we update? Let's see. We have 15 matches, so maybe that's not the correct place. Section title, let's verify. Form filter from in section title, that's correct one. Inside form in this one. Let's go about here.
I think you can edit right in the elements tab as well. You don't have to go to sources once you saved it into overrides. It can be very useful.
Okay, you're saying that here, edit it, and then go there?
I think once you saved it as override, I think you can edit here. Yeah, you don't even need to go in there. I might be wrong though, so let's try.
Okay. Let's see. I think it works. Sources, although I updated here already. Let's change something up there. Just to stick. I usually go to the source panel and then update, but let's see if it works. Okay, why is it asking that? It is not updating. It basically asks to save the file. If I refresh, it will go to the meetup one. So you have to go there and update.
Oh, here. My bad. Sorry about that.
No problems. Okay, so so the thing which basically helps here is like you refresh the page, it still sticks there. So you have not gone to your development environment, you have not set up anything. You just used Chrome DevTools to save something locally, and now this can present you that. So the benefit of this part is really amazing on that part is, so all this performance specific part, what we are saying that we have to develop and then fix, can we do it prior to that and test whether it works quickly something? If it works, then go back to your development environment and fix it. So that way, any suggestions or the recommendations which has been given to the teams, let's say those teams will be prioritizing and fixing that particular part. They'll be allocating time, but prior to that, let's say if you have a list of 10, you can prioritize on basis of testing locally. So let's say you tested prior assigning to your team or members who are particularly doing it. So in that case, the complete prioritization can happen as per your impact, and you are seeing that impact or the benefit what you are bringing in, and accordingly prioritize that part. So we'll leverage this part to explicitly optimize this page. Once we are in performance panel, we'll do that. And yeah, so that's our source panel on that part. And last little things on the snippet part, which is missing currently. 1 second. Let me go to the snippets. Okay, and hit escape to bring up the console from the bottom. I close this one, close it, and let's say largest contentful paint. So LCP, which we call, um, once we go to performance panel, we get to see that. But prior to that, let's say I want to highlight, because LCP is doesn't happen, or it is basically happens until you interact with the page, right? So it is like while loading, it might be one specific LCP and then LCP moving to the other one once the area of that particular element is bigger, or the largest one, which basically considers to that, until you have interacted with the page, that particular parts gets assigned as LCP, right? So let's see how many do we get here, because as we know, it is not just one, it can be multiple, right? Let's see how many. And what I have done here is I've highlighted them with a border part. So it will basically show you, even though that is not the eventual or um, the final LCP, rather what are those elements which were LCP before, were contributing to the LCP, and then somebody else took over from that. Let's run it. It basically shows up accordingly. So I've console logged all that once you collect. So if you hover on this part, you can hover, which one was that? So this was the first LCP, although not the final one. And then the second one wins, and that becomes the LCP, right? So this is a simple specific snippet which you can save locally and then try out multiple things. Let's say, how are your LCP moving from one to the other? Maybe for desktop, if you're loading other responsive images, it depends your text styling and other parts. So this kind of, because once we go to Chrome DevTools, it will show me the final LCP, but it will not tell me what are those multiple LCPs were there before. So if I want to test it out, I can easily test and try it out. So that kind of completely helps me understand how the LCP moved from one element to the other, and how was the final one attributed and why. Cool. So that's our. So there are other specific snippets which I'll just quickly run. Let's say the cumulative layout sift. This is like when all your elements are sifting while loading, and that is basically considered or collected, accumulated as a cumulative layout sifts. That's kind of a experience, which is not a great experience for user, and that is what quantified as a cumulative layout sift. If I run it, it's uh, it's basically available with a particular variable. So there's another little thing called live expressions. So you can just type in here that cumulative sift score and press enter, or just leave it. So it'll always keep on measuring that part. So let's say if I scroll off at any point, this changes, it will keep changing. So 0.8 doesn't seem to be the good one. The threshold, which is the best, is around less than 0.1. So yeah, so we have to improve this part. And once we go to the performance panel, we'll improve the complete page. So it should be under 0.1. Another one within the snippet, which is like first input delay. Once you, so that's like once you click, what is the time it takes to respond to that? Now, once it is activated, I had to preserve the logs, because once I click on this link, it will move to other one. So it is already preserved. So click on that. Can you see here, recorded fade performance is 30 in this one. So yeah, that basically helps in that collecting all of these values. And the last one is like to basically check how many scripts are being loaded, and which among those are async and defer. It's a snippet which has been created by Tim Kadlec. I just took that snippet. That's basically provides you all the snippets. The blank one seems to be the inline scripts. And so async is true, defer is false. What we'll eventually do on this part is like we'll change all of these scripts to the defer part. So the render, it should not be blocking any kind of the render part. So yeah, that is what we'll be doing when we'll be moving on to the performance panel. Yeah, I think that's it on the sources part. Any questions still now?
Yeah, folks are asking, where did you get the snippet? Lothar asked it. I also wanted to ask that too. Where did you get the snippets?
So you can add snippets here, or you're asking about where did I get these snippets?
Yeah, where did you get these snippets? And also
Yeah.
Hilary asking, is there any way to get the snippet somewhere else? Sorry, where do you get the snippets for other metrics, I meant.
Okay,
Just
so yeah,
page
the,
load.
the metrics part, you can go for one second. You can go to web dev, and there you can, that should be straightforward to find these scripts. So let's say for web dev fid, so Pelp basically has what a lot on the fid part. So there should be some script here. Here you can see. Um, I can explain the snippet here as basically when we define buffered. So it doesn't need to be loaded on the initial part. So this ROM specific snippet can be collected even after all these complete pages rendered. So buffer defines that if it happens before, then you collect it and then pass it out. So that's the buffer attribute
So
for,
there's no
and it's,
central repository for snippets, right? Like there's no place to get like a cool
yeah,
performance snippets.
yeah, we can get it. Say Web Vitals is everything which happens that's npm. So Web Vitals, there's an npm package which contains all of that as well. So
By the way, we are about 40 minutes in.
okay,
So we might
let
want to
me,
speed up. And I know we have a
sure,
lot of questions. Let's leave the rest of the questions to the end, and because we still need to go a little bit through other parts.
sure,
I don't want us
sure,
to go too long.
sure. Okay, so let's move on to the so I've covered a lot of things around the console part, the basic ones. So let's speed up on the Lighthouse thing. So that's, so let's say if I want to profile a particular site, I would rather start off with a basic Lighthouse where it suggests something. I can go through that, address that. That basically improves the performance. That's a easier way around without even digging deeper. These are the specific initial parts which has been defined, and beyond that we are good. So I'll just run it once and then show it out. We'll just move directly to the performance panel after this. Okay, so this is the current performance part, and then these are the specific suggestions. If you scroll down, you get to see the details one, and that kind of helps in improving performance part. So we'll just skim through the performance one, and this, I guess, these are pretty intuitive to understand and easily can be fixed part. So let's deep dive on the performance one. Okay, so the way we basically use the performance panel here, go to the elements, nuke the head and body so that you get the complete clean performance profiling. So it's the shortcut on this is Command Shift E. Okay. So once we get this, then we can easily see there are things which is happening a lot here, right? Um, Great. One second, let me just short it out. Okay, so these are all micro tasks which is happening. Let's initially fix this part. As I said, there seems to be there are few things which is blocking here, and I guess these are the JavaScript which is blocking it out, and the layout shift. Let's fix the layout shift part for now. As we know, layout shifts happens for that cumulative layout shifts. That's the experience part, which has been shown here. Let's go to the source panel. Sorry, the elements panel, and then look out for image. Let's say this one. How do we check it? This is the detail page. We go, one second, let me open the page which I want. Okay. Let's do that again. Performance, Command Shift T.
And Command Shift E is just the reload button right up there. It's
Yes,
the
yes,
same
yes,
shortcut. Nice.
yes, yes, Command Shift T. You can see this. This is basically, this shows that the image are coming up and then it is basically moving a lot of elements. That's the reason we are seeing here the layout shift, right? If that is clear, or I can zoom a little bit on that. So commands this one, command shift 8.
So basically, when you hover over the film strip, you can see where shift is happening, like visually,
Correct.
but you can also see
Yes.
that red bar in the experience section on the bottom, right? Like that's what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So command shift 8, somehow the zoom, yeah, this one you're talking about.
Is it the same red bar as you see down in the experience section effectively? So if you have it red there, it will be red at the very top as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So this basically defines the long task, and one second, there's this pretty small screen. I usually use the bigger one, so one second. You can see the long task that should match as well, and the layout shift also defines those long tasks. So if I do Command Shift D, that can match a lot on this part. Let me do it again. By the way, you can move it here. So when you're working around this one and this,
Or just
and do a
dragging
Command
the
Shift
tab
again.
to the left makes it
Yes,
primary
yeah,
tab. Amazing.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Uh, we can also profile it with the mobile, which I usually prefer in the sense you can debug it in the mobile. The way you can do it is go to your remote device and then click on this. It's not visible. This is the inspect one. which will open my phones specific part. And now you can do the device testing and do the same performance profiling. That is what I was doing as well. And let's say we do the same nuking of head and body, and then open the performance one, do this.
So it right now it runs directly on your mobile device, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
Nice.
So that way, it obviously the performance bottleneck would be more, because with the device one, it depends what device you're using, but then normal device is way lesser than what we currently use. In that case, those specific bottlenecks can be easily identified. Okay, so now as we see here, you can do Command Shift D, Command Shift D. Somehow it's not working. Why? Sorry, what I did. One second. So you can see these specific parts. And if you click on that particular thing, let's say to understand what is happening here, that can show that these are things which is blocking that part. And if I minimize the frame and bring up the main panel, that can shows you that this is something which is the long toss, which has happened, right? Anything which is beyond 50 millisecond, that's a long task. And explicitly to show the rendering part here, I'll just quickly show you that one which I wanted here. So this is the rendering pipeline. When we are explicitly dealing within the performance part, this is how it is executed. It starts with JavaScript, styling, layout, paint, and composite. So if you can see this underlined ones, so these are the specific steps it goes through. So when you explicitly see a bottleneck, then you have to track it back, saying what happened before in order to explicitly see why it is happening. So let's say there's a composite recalculate style or layout thrashing, which is happening. Then you can trace it back to see when that occurred or what was the root cause on that. And that is how we identify on explicitly these kind of problems, right? Um, so let's say this happened here. There's some rocket loader things happened. Let's say the way I would do here is I go to press escape. So that's the console panel which brings it up, and go to the network panel and click on the rocket loader. Let's say we block it because we saw that it is basically blocking few things on that part, the script. So let's say let's block that out and then do a reload again. So again, the reloading happens the same way, nuke head and body, and then move to command square bracket to move to the performance panel, command shift E. Yeah, you can see it has improved a lot on that part, right? And the rest, as we discussed, that will be explicitly disabling that the complete JavaScript we want to defer, we take it to the defer one, so that it should not blocker the initial rendering at all. So in that case, we can go to source panel, pop open that particular source. Let's say we go to this overrides and then source and close it, prettify it. I think it's already prettified. Close this one. and look for script. Okay, now there are a couple of things. One to start off with is here we can see this GTM data layer, right? This is Google Tag Manager, right? And for now, let's let it be there, but we want to make it defer. So there is something called async here. I'll just change it to defer. Okay, go on. And the next part is GA. I'll also change it to defer. The reason why we are changing it to defer is this should not be render blocking. So putting it to defer will not be a render blocking part. And it is within the head. So that is why we are changing it that too. And there's a FB script. So mostly for FB script, let's say we just made this to defer. Let's see how the performance changes due to that. Go to head, this, delete, go to body, delete again, go to performance, do a Command Shift E.
And you were editing that in local overrides, right? That
Yes,
little
yes, yes,
purple
absolutely.
circle indicated that. So when you load the
Absolutely.
page, you actually see the local result with your modifications without doing any
Yes,
developer environment.
exactly, exactly, exactly. And the way you can verify that part is like, let's say we change that part and now you don't see it here. So that is not within your render blocking part. And go to the network panel, see what we changed. That was GTM. What was that? Source panel, data layer, Google Tag Manager. Go up. Go to the network panel, and then look for what is the tag manager, right? Why it's not showing up? Let's say JS and do a escape. Let me just refresh once, so it should be loading. Somehow it is not.
Because that's a local override.
Yeah, but I didn't basically moved it, so it is still there. It should be loading. I know it's always like when you do it.
Well, it's basically when you present it, it never works. Yes, that's
Yeah,
fine.
it's actually that way. But it should, let me do it. What I can do is let's disable local overrides. Okay. And, to basically check whether you are using any local overrides or request blocking, you should be looking for a marker here to the network part. So if that is there, that means there is something which you have still enabled, right? Either slow connections or anything which is enabled. Once you disable everything, you won't see that icon which was visible before, right? Now again, go to the network panel and then refresh. Yeah, you can see the tag manager. Now let's go back to source panel and then enable, save it, Command save. Go to the network panel, refresh it. You should still see it. That's correct. Now go to the source panel and verify that it is deferred. Okay. Now coming back to the performance panel, go to elements, do this nuking of head and body, and go back to the performance, do it again. At times it basically doesn't work and something, then you have to reload and try it again. That should work. Okay, now we can see those part which we were supposed to earlier, and now this is low. If you can see, that is no more a render blocking part. And the way you can see it is like we have to make all of them non-blocking. So we have to go to source panel, and let's the way you can see it is this is somehow blocking me.
We're kind of running
Any
low on time, so if you wanted to cover web page test a little, maybe we can switch to that. But
yeah, sure.
this Chrome DevTools magic tricks are just amazing. Like how much you can do
Yeah,
optimizing
yeah,
the load by doing local overrides. Samar showed
correct.
some of that at our Meet for Speeds before. It's like amazing.
Correct. So there are a lot of things which you can do explicitly on that part. And so it's actually you need to explicitly so just to call out how basically I do it, I basically look for this long task and then look for the script, and here you can see a GS script, right, which is basically doing that. So in that case, go ahead and defer this part, so it should not be here, as in it should not be blocking at this point. So that is how I do it, as in for all of these part. This is major GC. You cannot do anything on that part because that's like works on the collect what do you call it, garbage collector parts. That's done by browser itself. You cannot do much on that part. And again, when you see this one, let's say I talked about the pipeline, the pixel pipeline rendering part. When you see this, you have to look back saying what is causing it. Once you see the orange ones, there you can look for what basically caused this recalculate style and this one, because this is the end part. You cannot fix it here. You have to look back what caused all of those four parts, fix it there, so it basically improves, and then you can reach that part. In order to basically show it, I have a way. I'll just show it that, and then we move on to the other one. So let's say if I clean it, I go back to um, this, and then I go back to server temp. That is fifth, and select. You need to press allow. This is all what I've said earlier. Go back here and let it be there. Go to elements, head and nuke. Both do the performance, do a command shift T.
So you can share these folders of overrides with others as an example of how
Correct. So
you
now you
can
can see
this.
the complete part is not there, and we have prioritized this. So if we go to the source panel, there is something which we have prioritized. Say the logo was not feasible earlier, so we have added that link rel preload. What is that? Yeah, this one, which basically helped. You can the way you can compare locally is go back to the previous one, check it out. Let's say this one, and see on the initial part, you cannot see the logo, right? If you go back to the one which I profiled right now, see the first one itself has the logo. Where is this one? Yeah, this one. Where is the logo? It loaded this logo. Somehow it's not visible. Some JavaScript broke. Network blocking. You don't need to block anything. That's correct. Oh, okay. You have to block this one. The last one, elements and head, delete and delete.
It might have been just race condition or something.
Yeah, I think so. But I'll just do it last one. That should be done. Yeah. Now you can see it's much cleaner. And I don't know why loader is not coming up, but here it's, you can see that it is downloading this one, right? So the way around to look at is here. Okay. I'll basically anyway fix it and then provide that directory. So and with the steps, so you guys can follow that to understand how I made those, or how do I derive this, all of these changes which I did here.
Greg in comments is asking, is the whole site saved with local overrides, or just the, I assume it's only for the files you have changed, but can
Yeah, a
you
few
save the
files.
whole website?
You can, but so there are three things which I had to change. So I basically saved these three, but you can change a lot, whatever you explicitly want on that part.
But do
So
you
yeah.
know if you can save the whole origin altogether?
No, 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 not together, because if you have to go to page and then click each one to save it locally, all of them, but not with a single click. That's not, if I can see it, no, that's not there. So you have to go to each file, and then let's say if I have to save this cake SVG, then I have to go to this and save for override, then it basically brings up in the local directory. So all of them works that the same way.
That would be awesome if you could just save the file, save the site, edit it, and give others to load. Oh, but it could have been
Correct.
used for bad things too, so I don't know.
Correct, correct. So you have to basically go by each file and then do that, save for overrides, and then it basically works around that. Okay, I think that's what we basically can leverage the console on that part. And coming to WebPageTest test.
Yeah, we kind of short on time. It's been an hour already. Maybe we can
Mhm.
go quickly through the high points on the web page test, and save the rest of it for let's say Meet for Speed session or another time.
Sure, sure. The way we would be doing it is, let's say we would directly go to the web page and then we talk about it there in the complete part. Um, I have saved a couple of tests there. We can pick one and then basically take it from there. So when we are using WebPageTest, it is like the neat little part is the comparison, the way we can do. So let's say if we use this just pick, which we did now, and then compare it with another something like specific part. So although it was mobile and desktop, but then it basically provides you the complete comparison with the film strip. And when going back, let's say when you're supposed to start testing, then there are a couple of specific ways how you can do that. And then simple testing ways, you just provide this website and define which device you want to simulate, and then kick off your testing. That would provide you the complete thing. But the advanced testing is something which basically provides the details, the way you want to profile, or you want to explicitly collect the details part what you need. So in that case, we suggest using the the specific connections, which is your average connection for your user. Given a website, it differs a lot, and accordingly, but mostly 3G fast and 3G slow, or even the 2G basically shows up what are the basically performance bottlenecks what you have, and accordingly you can look through to explicitly fix that part. So let's say if we go to advanced part, and then there are a lot of things specifically which you can fine tune or select to specifically capture data corresponding to those configurations. The quick and easy way, the way basically I test it, is like go to the third one here and emulate it with Moto G or anything which is basically your average device for your users, and then capture Lighthouse report and this one, and then kick off the test with providing the URL. So that's the way usually we test. And then beyond that, there are specific ways what we can leverage. Let's say your site is under some HTTP basic authentications, you can provide that, and then run the complete test. And then the other part is around the scripts which you can define which needs to be run on the page, and then blocking particular scripts, or you have third-party specific assets which you're loading and you want to test it while after blocking, or if you block those specific snippets or scripts, how does it behave? You can explicitly define those here. That would basically block those scripts, and then you can test the complete site beyond that. And SPOF one is explicitly rerouting part, and then bringing in the custom part. This is something which you can define as the custom metrics, which you want to explicitly capture. And there are specific ways how we can capture it. I'll just define one. Let's say we want to check in how many scripts do we have on a given page. So in that case, we can just do this, which is like it will return how many script tags do we have on our page. And recently, Patrick updated something related to WPT request and WPT bodies. The way we can leverage that is, let's say we want to explicitly check how many scripts were downloaded or defined on our initial specific DOM, and then what were the rest of the scripts which has been added. For that, we can add this one. So this is something called request bodies, which will contain the initial one. With zero, it's to give you the complete part, as in beyond that, whatever has been added, that is also captured. You can define that, and those will be coming up within your test results as num total scripts and num initial scripts, which was like those were the initial scripts, and what were the scripts which were later added. So this is pretty good. You can define any specific metric here, and that will come up in your test results. So let's say we pick scry. And then start it.
So those custom metrics are basically a piece of JavaScript that executes after the test is ran, and it collects the data as that the name you provide in square brackets right above it, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And then there is something called WPT bodies and WPT. There were two scripts which recently Patrick has added: WPT bodies and WPT request. A request contains all these only request, and the body parts will contain both response in this one. So that can help you identify what are the scripts which came up later during the waterfall, not initially. And you can also identify what are the scripts which were there within the DOM. And you can also identify within that, say, if the scripts were there, were they deferred, or they are as defined as async, or they were blocking scripts. You can identify and have it on the web test as well. So that's possible after these two variables were defined on that part. So these are pretty neat specific parts which has been currently defined. Yeah.
I have a feeling we have so much deep details in WebPageTest and Chrome DevTools. We might need a month to give the fully covering talk. We somewhat underestimated the amount of time.
It is always a lot of things which is available on that part. So yeah. Did it came?
No, I think it's the last one. Last tab. Okay. Yeah, it's still running.
Yeah. So if I just go by one of these history and then just show up or something there, it is like there is something called request map, which if you open, you can see a different perspective of the complete request which you have made for the complete domain. So different domains and assets. The bigger circles means these are the assets which is of a higher weight, bigger size actually. And the connectors defines that this is how they are connected. So you can, this visually, it will basically provide you the hint that how are these connected, and how big those specific requests were. And coming back again, there is something called image analysis, which you can do for all of these images to see which are those images which could be optimized further. Cloudinary is used on this image analysis part. And there is something called film strip, which is pretty neat. Clicking on the film strip, it will provide you something similar to the way we were doing in performance panel of Chrome DevTools, where you can basically analyze the red line, what you see here, and the red line here. It basically matches to the screen and the timeline, what you have here. And so accordingly, you can identify how are you changing your screen as per the complete waterfall. So that basically gives you a hinting that at times you would be making a lot of requests, but there is no frames. So in that case, you can define these are the things which is blocking, and accordingly take steps to improve that. Okay, so coming back to this one again, hopefully this is done. It's still going. Okay. Again, there are a couple of things on that part. We can explicitly check it on a content breakdown format where we can identify what are our assets and its corresponding size and bytes and their mem types as well. So let's say here it represents that this many JS requests we have done on this part. And this was the bytes, uncompressed and compressed specific bytes for all of these groups. And then domain wise, we can also have a perspective, say what are the corresponding domains, what we have used and how they are, what is the number of requests and bytes comparison. And then processing breakdown basically gives us a perspective that let's say if there might be sites which basically takes a lot of JavaScript and accordingly the timing part varies. So let's say this basically provides a hinting that painting that took this much time in painting, the maximum time was taken in the painting part. So there's something called idle. If we see here, idle, yeah. So idle part, basically we need to have, the application should have enough idle time so it can basically uh, respond to user interactions. So accordingly, we should see how we can optimize this part so that these specific values or the time taken can be reduced further. And that is how we benefit that these times are available for users to for the interactions and stuff. Yeah, hopefully this is done. No, still not.
Yeah, it's not coming. I think we will have to open
Yeah,
up to questions because
yeah. I
it will
think
take
yes.
quite a bit
Let's
of
go.
time. So,
Let's yeah. Let's. The last one is the way we were comparing the main thread there or the long task. Here we can define at the bottom. Um, we can see these red marks that defines long task or the blocking time. And you can check exactly what is happening because this line will provide you those specific part if there is any processing, and you can look for that. And there is another part where when we see this JS execution pink line, that defines that, let's say if I see a thin line here, the thicker, the more expensive task which is going on. Accordingly, once you see, if you see this in your timeline, then you should look for that script, what is doing in that particular scope. So if it is thinner, then there is small task which is continuously doing from the complete part. If it is thicker, then it's a more expensive task which is doing on that part. And all of these dotted part basically identifies these are all streamed JavaScript and all other. And similarly here, these are coming as chunks. So yeah, I think that's about it. And yeah, we can take in the questions then.
okay. So,
Yeah.
folks, I remember we had a couple questions that I will try to repeat. we shortly covered them, but first of all, the snippets. I think everybody got in love with snippets.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
is there any way to somehow find a good resource where we can find the snippets, or if there is a good place we can
Yeah,
download them?
sure. I'll so there are a couple of things which I have, as in I check for resources. I'll post that link within a meetup or within the slides. I'll add it so it is easier for everyone to collect snippets from there. But otherwise, it is like, something which is like a bookmark for everyone. Um, Things what they like, they can just keep it in the snippet and then run as in when they feel that is required. Or and the other neat little part which I forgot here was, you can just type command shift p, that pops up the complete command panel, where you can just type, let's say if I want to run the cumulative layout step, then I can just do cumulative, no, sorry. If I wanted to explicitly run that, then do exclamation, and then this will show up all your local scripts. Otherwise, Command P will define, basically show you the source panel scripts. And then you can clicking of that, it will run that and show you. So Command P, this one, that's the largest contentful paint, it will show you. So accordingly, you can just run that
Yeah, Andy
commands.
Davis recently posted on Twitter his script for reloading, for doing removing the head element, body element, and disconnecting all of the element handlers, which
Okay.
completely nukes as one script, as one snippet.
Oh
That was
wow,
interesting.
that's good, because now you can create all the scripts here, and that would be helpful. As in, whatever we do on a regular basis, or do we what we check on a regular basis, that can be automated here, and that becomes a script there part.
Yeah. So
And
I feel like
yeah,
we do need a collection. So folks, if anyone wants to take on creating a good collection of scripts, that would be great. Charles is saying that WPT portion was great, but he got a little lost with so much going on.
yeah, there are a
So
lot of things which we just
yeah,
skimmed through, but yeah, I'll do one thing, is in whatever specifically we discussed, I'll post it as a blog, and then I'll share the link in the on the meetup, so people
perfect.
can follow through that.
And Charles, we do have Meet for Speed sessions where we usually dive deeper into individual pieces like that. If you have any particular questions, or if you want to bring the website, that's exactly what we do. WebPageTest is our favorite tool to begin with, right? So
So,
you can come to that as well. And yes, we'll try to publish the video as well. Um, I
there's
actually had a
something.
more generic question, Samar. Uh,
Yeah.
where did you learn all of that? How would we learn all of these details about Chrome developer tools? How would we do it?
Uh, yeah. So I think, one second, I'll just post that.
Mhm.
There's a Google Developer DevTools, which they basically add every specific change they do. And there's a Twitter which you can follow as well, as in when they develop, they also publish saying this is something which they are developing or working, and accordingly you can look for those specific features. And there is a Chrome Canary which you can basically launch up and then try all these new features which is coming up. Let's say there is something called coverage panel. I think I forgot, but then that's pretty good. Open the coverage panel, click on this one, whatever be the site. Let's say you want to see how many specific JS or CSS parts being used or unused, that can provide you those specific details on the right. And then on clicking of that, it basically shows you the portions which the mark in red are something which has not been executed. So accordingly, you can basically look to what are the things which you can remove from your source code which has not been used.
And I think they
So
publish it on their YouTube channel as well, all of those tweaks and
yes,
tricks.
yes,
So there's
they
a
do.
pretty
They
long
do.
list of
So for
videos.
every release of Chrome, they do publish this Chrome DevTools, whatever the new things which they have basically worked or are publishing. So that those are the pretty good ways to look for. Any recommended book for using Chrome DevTools? Basically, one second, I forget his name. Uh,
Yeah, I actually never seen a book about Chrome Developer Tools specifically, but there should have been one, right?
this is a nice little part. I'll just share it here. Omar Hansa, actually.
Uh-huh.
Uh, if you guys can follow him, he has a complete list. That's completely good. I basically went through that a lot, and that's a place where you can learn a lot from this. Omar Dev Tips, this one. Yeah, it has like 242 tips.
Oh
I'll
man,
just so
this is a lot.
so it is. Yeah, it is like pretty good, and I have learned a lot on this part. So this is a nice little resource where you can follow.
Perfect, thank you.
I posted in the panels.
David, by the way, is asking if there are snippets to calculate LCP, CLS, and FID. And there is actually an extension to Chrome that Google team
Yes,
developed that
yes.
even
I
shows
would
shows
like to get a snippet to calculate this one. So I
yeah.
think I've created it. I'll just think CLS. I've created CLS allied. This one I can just post it here.
Mhm. And if you can list them somewhere on your blog post, and we can just share a
Sure,
link to all of the resources, that would be awesome.
sure, I'll do that.
Yeah.
On this link, I'll also add all of them. So the same link, I'll be adding all of this specific parts what we discussed.
Yeah, it's very hard to share resource. Like usually when we have a slide presentation, it's easier to share a PDF, but when it's a demo, it's much harder to
Yeah,
share the demo because
yeah,
video
I
is
know, I know.
sometimes not enough. That's for sure. And
Yeah.
we cannot expect people to retype the script that they've seen in the video.
Correct.
It would be
I'll basically create a blog post which show it would be more easier for everyone to consume, because I know it is a lot once you open. So the only recommendation is, like, when you open a performance panel, then have a goal predefined so it would be easier to walk through the performance panel. Otherwise, you might end up doing a lot of things and then not achieving any part. So just define one goal, what you have, and then go to performance panel and do that part, and that would be done. So
and have a
that's
large
how I do it.
screen. Have a large screen so you can see all of those
Yeah, so
tabs. But
so there are a lot of things which I'm struggling here, because because I work on the vertical screen, and with that it is way simple, because you see the complete panel and now you have to scroll through to see. I was wondering where is that going and what are the links and all.
we might need to start
So
selling Chrome Developer Tools monitors.
so with the big monitor, what is the URL for Oma tips? I just pinged it.
Oh, it looks
Did I?
like you pasted it only to panelists. I'll paste
Okay,
it to I'll paste it to
I'll
everyone.
do it. I'll do it.
No, I just did.
Paste.
I just
Okay.
did. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, Zoom kind of defaults you to posting to only a group of people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't know it was panelist, so I was just mentioning the other one. I'll post the other script as well there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry about that,
Yeah.
folks.
I thought I posted both of them, but then yeah, it was missed.
Okay, I think this will wrap up for today. Thanks a lot, Samar. It's
Yeah.
a lot of information, a
Yeah.
lot of golden nuggets that every time Samar comes to Meet for Speed meetup, like I learn like that I spent hours doing something without knowing what like the simple trick. Like last time, we discovered copying the JavaScript code, for example. Right? Like for the specific element selection. Anyway, thank you, Samar, for helping us understand this. I wish we had more time. Maybe we can
Yeah.
have a separate Meet for Speeds for
Yeah.
specific
Sure.
topics. If you want to
Sure.
run a couple with like much more narrow focus, so
Yeah.
folks can
Yeah.
check it out.
I think there were a lot of things which we were covering, so maybe that's something which we can do much more when we just pick a small topic, wouldn't pick the complete one, because that is where we scheme through, and then people are struggling to cope up with that.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for listening. Thank you for awesome questions as well. We do this speaker session every month, and Meet for Speeds are also every month. So feel free to attend the Meet for Speed sessions. They are very tool oriented, similar to this presentation as well, and they also they are usually quite practical, because if you bring your website, you can also see that. So thank you, Samar.
Thank you.
Sorry for waking you up so early to give this talk, but
No problems.
I think we have to have like some kind of parity. Have to meet somewhere in the middle. Although they say Europe is in the middle, but I don't know. or Japan. I have no idea. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the
Absolutely.
opportunity. It was pretty nice.
Absolutely. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.